we are, as I typically do in September. Hey, happy September. I typically go back to basics of our teaching, of science of mind teaching. And this month, I've chosen to go with one of Ernest Holmes' books, How to Use the Science of Mind. One of the basic ones, not the textbook. The textbook is what we consider our basic teaching, but how to use the science of mind is right up there. And so that's what I'm going to refer to a lot during this week, this month. And I wanted to start with, we're going to start with basics. You better start with the first one first, the most obvious one. And if I were to take a survey of all the people in here who have been coming fairly regularly, I would trust that we get 80% would know what the basic concept is. That there is one power, one presence, known by many names, that creative energy, that source, that is, and it is all, everything, everyone, every, whatever, it's in everything as it. I would hope that most of us would say, yeah, that's the one I was going to answer, right? And saying that, knowing that it is an infinite being, presence, whatever you want to call it, it is probably a good way to refer to it. In the textbook, Ernest Holmes says, you know, the way it works. He calls it because it's not male and female, it's both, it's all. And yet, for our humanness, for our human minds, it's difficult to fathom, to really grab a hold of, to get the concept of what is this thing. And I would think that that would be pretty natural. You know, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And we have this mind that is what? The one mind. There's only one mind. But each of us gets to use that mind individually, by our own means, by our own choices. And so as humans, many of us love to have opinions. Imagine that. Have preferences. Want to make choices. That is all natural to our species. And many of us want to be right. And want to be in control. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Does that sound like fair territory that you've been traveling here and there? Take a deep breath. That is true. That is our nature. That is what we do. Do you want to make it right, or do you want to make it wrong? Or do you want to just accept that that's what is? So this thing, this it that is, science of mind calls it, and I think most religions or spiritual avenues as a whole know it as love. We know it as love. Ernest Holmes was quoted by saying, love points the way and law makes the way possible. Love and law go hand in hand. Love is that generating creative energy force, and the law is the way in which that love expresses itself in the world. Our topic this morning is called Individualizing Universal Power. So each of us, as I've said many, many times, and that's probably number 2 on our list of basics, is that this universal power is expressing itself, which is infinite, through everything, everyone, individually, uniquely. Just like we all have different fingerprints. We all have a different way that we look at things, that we have opinions of. And since we are this infinite being in expression, those opinions are always changing. This infinite love is changeless, but it expresses itself through a changing modality, which is us. Life changes, imagine that. I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, Pete, you know, it just upsets me that I don't have the strength that I used to have. No, you're not 16 anymore, you're not 25, you're not 35. Things change. 65, yeah.
75.
Okay, do I hear? No, we're not having it. Oh yeah, I think we have an 80. Oh, well, no, I'm not going to go there because I know the person who's probably the oldest in this room. We have our jaws would drop if we really knew that number. So anyway, so this force, this life energy, operates. Get this now. This might be a challenge. This life force and this energy operates without our control. Take a deep breath. There's this thing in life we call faith. We can't see it. We can't absolutely put a nail through it. But there is this energy within us that trusts, that has faith, that this love force energy is real. And it is doing what it needs to do without our conscious direction. Now granted, that may sound a little against what New Thought or metaphysics or science of mind teaches, because we say, you can speak your word, you know, it'll happen. And I was talking to someone last week and they were saying, well yeah, I wrote all this down, I spoke this and everything, but it hasn't happened. That's right. That's the way life is. We can't control it. Albert Einstein said the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. The mysterious. The mysterious to me is just another word for that divine love, for that divine energy. And if we totally understand, if somebody tells you that I totally understand what divine love, what divine energy, what God is, whatever you want to call it, just smile and accept that that's where they're coming from. No judgment. See, I wrote down on here, I think they're living in La La Land. But that's a judgment, isn't it? That's their life. If they want to live that way, more power to them. Ernest Holmes says, spirit is ever unfolding its divine nature. That means things will change. It is doing this independently of our personal thought. In our personal lives, it must do this through our thinking. Now we're beginning to sound like Ernest. In such degree as our thinking is in accord with the original nature, I put in love, the same orderly progression of harmonious ideas will operate in our affairs that is already operating in that larger world which we experience, but neither create nor control. As all deep spiritual thinkers have announced, and rightly, okay, there's an opinion, we soon come to realize that wherever the individual will is contrary to or in opposition to this universal coordinating will, it detaches itself from the source of its power. What did all that say? That's Ernest Holmes. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Lots of words. It's saying when we are in accord with that love, we are in union with it. And when we are detached from it, we're separated from it in our thinking, in our expectations. We can never ever be separated from it. So let me read that again. As all deep spiritual thinkers have announced, as soon come to realize that wherever the individual will is contrary to or in opposition to this universal coordinating will, it detaches itself from the source of its power. It goes alone and soon becomes exhausted. Isn't that true? When we follow that monkey mind and that ego sense and we think that we're separate and all of that business, it is exhausting. When we align ourselves with knowing the truth that love is here, what a comfort that is. On the other hand, wherever this individual will links itself up with the universal harmony, it becomes a spontaneous proclamation of that harmony, now individualized. Hook up with love, and you are going to express that love in your own perfect, unique way. So we all have our own thoughts. We all have our own way of doing things, and that's the way life works. Isn't that great? Nobody else is going to do it like me. Nobody else is going to do it like you. Accept that. It's wonderful. Now, recognize that this life is full of infinite possibilities, infinite potential. I don't want you to get the erroneous thinking that if I only think about love and if I'm harmonious with love in every single moment of my life, life is just going to just fall together in perfect harmony and union, and I'll live in nirvana and in bliss. The nature of life is change. What's going on right now in the world? Isn't there something called a Hurricane Dorian that's going to hit the Bahamas, or someone's been tracking that? Hasn't the rainforest been on fire? These things our humanness can label, can make wrong, bad, shouldn't happen. Do we have any control over it? Absolutely not. It is. Life is happening and being what it is, what it wants to be, what it needs to be. There's all sorts of spectrums that are happening. I wasn't here last Sunday, and I understand that Rebecca Berry did a fabulous job while in my absence, but I was at a retreat with 11 other wonderful souls in Loretto, Kentucky. And this was put on by Reverend Dr. Martha Creek. Those of us in her program, it's a coaching program that she has. 9 months out of the year we sign up for it. We have monthly calls, and then we have retreats that we can go to throughout the year. And the main takeaway that I got from this retreat last week was that the sooner we realize that life is this infinite array of experiences, and that is the case, that's the way it is, we will live in peace. That's the bottom line. That no matter what is happening, it's happening because it's happening. We can classify it as good or bad, but it is. The grounds at Loretto it's a mother house. It's a place where Catholic nuns started it. I stayed in the Academy building, built, and it's got the big concrete laid name on it, built in 1884. And for me, a San Diego native, it was so wonderful to take the drive from Louisville, which is the airport, about 45 minutes to Loretto, and just see these gorgeous rolling green hills. The bluegrass of Kentucky, you know why they call it bluegrass? I found out. It's blue. There's certain grasses that have this blue tinge to them. And then the houses. They've got these these brick houses that just sit just beautifully on this expansive greenery. No fences, very little fences. And so you're driving and you just, oh, it just looks so pastoral, it looks so serene, so different from Southern California. You know, and so, and then and of course, I love old things, you know. There's a museum, I'll be in it. And so it's old buildings, and I think, why in the world now, you know, this is 1800s, and I'm sure that maybe building something probably wasn't the easiest thing to do, and my brain says, well then why did they make each floor 12 feet tall or something? You know, and it's like the steps, oh my gosh, the beautiful artwork of the wood, you know, in the staircase. But I mean, I know how many steps, there's usually 16 steps for me in one flight of stairs. One flight of stairs there was like 23, 24 steps or something. And then these huge windows that actually open, you know, in a public building. And so it was fabulous. It was just, the whole place was wonderful. And so with two of the mornings, we did a walk. We stayed in Nob Hill, which is one of the buildings, another building, for our sessions. And our first assignment was to take a walk down to the lake in silence. And we are to just notice on the walk what we see. And if we see a tree, think tree. Add no further judgment, adjective, to it at all. It's called first level awareness or first generation naming. So if you see tree, say tree in your head. You look at something else. Now, as before we left on the assignment, she said, now you naturally will have the propensity to think something beyond tree. For instance, maybe you see a bee, and the bee is the tip of the iceberg, because there's a bee there, and your mind will initially go, oh, is that bee going to sting me? You know, I'm allergic to bee stings. If that bee stings me, I could swell up. I could not breathe. I could actually die. All of this happens because we see a bee. All of that iceberg that's underneath the bee is all that consternation, all of that story, all of that stuff that we make up because that's what we see, a bee. It's not easy to stop yourself from going into all of this made-up drama from anything. It's really a practice. I commend you. I'm saying you might want to try this week. Is this first generation naming, just looking at something, and the thing of it is especially if you're observing someone else. A lot of it, what she talks about is you put a period on it. Someone, man having thoughts, woman yelling, period. Very challenging to not dive deeper into the story and make assessments of why, and it's right or it's wrong. The important thing is to realize is that life is giving itself. Full spectrum all the time. And so what I got from this retreat primarily was that let it include everything. Let it include all the spectrum. Let it include, you know what, I'm not as strong as I used to be. Let it include, yeah, those things on that list, I haven't realized those things on that list yet. And not let it be wrong. Not get upset over it. These are some of Martha's quotes. Stay in the I don't know mind. How about that? I don't know. Take off all labels. I don't know what's in this life plan. I hope I'm going to convey this properly. I know, it's off to hell I go. Life can be like a wheel of fortune. Spin the wheel again, and off you go to a new experience. Thoughts come and feelings follow, and let them go and have another. Then, I was the one that actually I put into like a wheel of fortune, because thoughts come, you have a feeling associated with that thought, let it go. Have another one. Don't be hooked onto it. Allow people to be and do what they do and say, to make their own choices. I accept my own feelings. Feel the feeling and stop the story. Just be curious. Factual. All relationships end. I will not let my peace end with your opinion of me. I like that one. Man yelling, woman crying. It's just a transaction. I don't have to bitch about it and don my superhero cape.
Uh-oh.
It's just a transaction. Put a period on it, not a comma. Get a sense that nothing can burden you. And here's a joke she told. I wrote this one down. So there's a man who's walking on the beach. And all of a sudden he finds a lamp. He picks up the lamp and he thinks, oh my gosh, is there a genie in this thing? And so he rubs the lamp, and sure enough, the genie pops out and says, you can have anything you want in life. What is your wish? What would you like? And the man says, oh my gosh, I would like every woman in the world to love me. Every woman in the world to love me. He goes, I can do that. You're a chocolate bar. Martha is an amazing facilitator, and I want you to put out in your calendars, I don't have the exact date at the moment, but she will be in our center, in our church, in June of 2020. And one of her criteria in order to go into her program or to go on to these retreats is that she has to have a one-on-one contact with you. So she needs to know you to be part of her internal group. She will be here in June of 2020. Make sure you come and be here to participate. She will have a couple workshops. She's going to do the talk, the whole bit. And so put that, on your calendar to make sure that you take care of that. She's most of what she does is based on Byron Katie's work. You're familiar with that? Byron Katie.
Oh, Byron.
Byron Katie. Yeah, asking the question. Yeah. Well, honestly, that was interesting because the group of people that were there, a lot of them have done Byron Katie work. And a couple of them had met each other 10 years ago at a Byron Katie workshop where people from all over the world attended it. And she said it was very interesting in our small groups when they didn't speak the language and had to coordinate with each other on the different languages. So lots of good stuff. By the way, Byron Katie, if you're not familiar with that, she has these questions she asks. You come up with something that's happened in your life and you say, is it true? Do you know, absolutely know it is true? What would I be? Who would I be if it wasn't true? It opens up your mind, your expansion. And then there's a fourth one. I forget what's. Don't you know what the fourth one is? The fourth question is the best one, too, but you know that I don't remember what it is. So, in a way, because I've been thinking about this. In fact, if you're in her program, you have one-on-ones with Martha. And I'm trying to come up with my time I want to chat with her next about. Because a lot of things about this her teaching and this whole line of thought is kind of, to me, contradicted to what our Science of Mind teaching says. And, there's a power, it's doing its thing. And yet we say, oh, I'll speak my word and it happens. Yeah, well, look at that list. The things still haven't happened. What's going on here? Okay? So, where I see the difference, or where I see that they do correlate and merge together, is the way that the title of his book, actually, How to Use the Science of Mind. We, as individualized expressions, have our individualized minds in the one mind. And so, to me, it all depends on what level of spiritual maturity we're on. The 4 levels of spiritual maturity are, the first one is victimhood. Things are happening to me. It's not my fault. I'm blaming, right? Second level of spiritual maturity is the manifester. This is the one where I'm going to speak my word, and by golly, it's going to happen. Third level of spiritual maturity is that life is happening through me. I am a channel through which this life force is happening. And the fourth one is that life force is happening as me. Remember the quote that I told you earlier about what Ernest Holmes was saying? When you are living in the third and fourth levels of spiritual maturity, you've gone beyond the manifester stage. You've gone beyond the fact that this is what I want in life. I'm going to make this happen. Because you're more allowing and congruent and available to let the spirit that is infinite move through you, giving you something that perhaps you hadn't known before, that you weren't aware of before. Ernest Holmes says that our relationship to the divine, the divine mind does not necessarily contain a mental blueprint of everything the individual is going to do. So it's not predetermined. It does, however, contain the possibility of all individual action. So the divine is allowing us to be and to grow and to do. It's not forcing us. It's allowing us. Shouldn't we allow whatever happens to happen? When anyone conceives a new idea, thinks up a new plan for procedure, which is in accord with the divine nature, then God himself is going forth anew into creation through that individual. When we line up, when we're in that third and fourth stage, when we allow and let this infinite being use us, not necessarily us use it. Quite a big nuance there. Man not only has a right to individualized creative power, nature has imposed this necessity upon him. He has no choice other than to use this creative power. His thought will always be creative, whether he knows it or not. The creativity of man's thought has nothing to do with his will or his belief. It is here just as nature is here. It is the use of a creative power that man has control over, not the thing itself. We have control over what we're thinking, not the thing itself. We need to be aware of our thoughts. One of my friends was, and I shared this with you before when we were talking about rowing your boat, row your boat gently down the stream. We're talking about the OAR, O-A-R, the acronym, open, available, receptive. When I was sitting in the workshop, I forget, something was happening, we were in between something, and I thought, oh, let me think of more things that I can think of, what other words I can think of for O. O is opportunity, one, on, off. A, aware, accessible, at one-ment, all, allow. R, release, revolution, renew, recycle, rejoice. I kind of have fun working with those word plays myself. By the way, Martha Creek's a fabulous photographer. This is a side thing that she does. Her website is called upacreek.com. And you can see her. In fact, I brought, if you want to afterward, she gave us, she's so generous, she gave us a couple of her books that she's had on of her photography. And just, I mean, this was all on flowers. And then she has lots of landscapes, because she loves to travel. She goes on cruises all the time. And so that's a fun thing to be aware of. But I thought it was funny, up a creek. Oh, and then she says, up a creek, and paddle is not necessary. Of course, we in our thinking is like, well, an oar is a good thing to have, you know, it gets you unstuck from things at times. You know, you get reeled into the tangles of life, an oar can do you some good. Life is always about change. It's about allowing. It's about letting. It's setting your intention, no doubt about that, and then allowing life to do what it will do. Knowing that there are hurricanes, there are fires, there are things that happen in life we don't prefer, that we wouldn't think we would consciously choose, but there is this life force that is living us. One of the big processes that we did, she's a lot of processes, was going back to age 3, and you wrote with your non-dominant hand, and the questions she asked you. And it brings up a lot of emotion, a lot of energy there. It's for us to discover how in the world, when something happens in my life, why do I react that way? Why do I react that I want to be in control? Well, it dawned on me when I was 3 years old, I wasn't in control, and it wasn't a happy thing. So we're learning as we go, we're learning through this life that it is infinite. It is breathing us. She gave us a challenge. If you think you're in control, there's a 2-minute example of seeing how much in control you are. Take a deep breath. Now hold it. Hold it for as long as you want to hold it. Hold it until, you know, tomorrow. Not going to happen, is it? We are not in control. And that's a good thing. Can you imagine if each and every one of us was in control of life? Whew. Okay. I think I've talked long enough. When I start going on Martha Creek's retreats, I could just go on and on, so we'll save more of that for another time. But I want you to recognize that living this science of mind teaching is all about being, what Ernest Holmes said, open at the top. That this is an infinite life, and we are part and parcel of it. So just smile and let it be. And let it be at peace for all the questions. If this is true, the very end one is, what person would I be if it wasn't true? I'd be at peace. I would be at peace. Simply at peace. Peace be with you.